So it's just that's where I prefer it. It's cheapest too. So it'll cost
And
you
I
like
can,
40 bucks a month, but you get unlimited executions
oh,
and you
brilliant.
can load nodes and stuff like that. So um yeah, definitely recommend it.
And I can pick any of the providers through DigitalOcean,
What
or
do
is
you
it
mean any of
they've
the
got, or is it like um that you get to select like Amazon servers through them, or they've got their own?
oh no, DigitalOcean is their own server infrastructure. So like
Okay.
Amazon Web Services will cost you an arm and a leg.
Yeah.
And Google Cloud Console is doable, but it's not as friendly to set up. So I just prefer using DigitalOcean because it just really simplifies like the deployment. And then um yeah, that's the easiest one for sure.
Brilliant. I'm setting it up now.
It's sliding into his DMs and Mario helped you out. He helped me out too, and I'm probably gonna have to get his help again because I mucked some stuff up a while ago, and but it was nothing with it. Yeah, anyway, we'll talk about that. Anyway, what people are here for, snapshots. So one thing I thought would be kind of cool to start doing in these, and our little chat with Vit actually just made me think about that, is that we can actually go through some of the snapshot updates and talk about what's cool with them, what's new, because there's actually a couple that happened in the last couple of weeks. One of them that I think is kind of neat. Um, is that there's now a notification preference. And I started seeing this like a day or two ago, and it was kind of creepy because it was like, again, unexpected things can be really kind of creepy, right? Where it's like when you're not, it was like I sent out a snapshot and then I got an email that was telling me about it. Um, and what it is that they now have a notification preference for snapshots. I'm just going
Yeah,
to
I
pull one
love
up over there.
this.
Yeah, so this is super cool too because you can now get receive when the push actually completes and if there's any successes or failures. And now you can also see the full push history of that snapshot. Um, One thing I haven't looked at yet is if that will go out. Ju- I think it'll go out for all. You can set it for all admins. Did you notice that, Mario?
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. It's not just the user. Yeah, yeah, up to 5 additional agency admins. So let's just actually, why don't we just pull it up? I'll just pull it up and give us a little visual, though you all can put it up in your own as well, too. Da-da. You want to see it in your own? Why is Zoom? There we go. Find new leads. All right, cool. So when you go to account snapshots, and then you can push it out. We'll just go into, so I think it's in the view history now. No, this is just where it sends. It actually sends an email because that's actually, let me show an email for it. That would be a better example because I was just realizing you just push it out and nothing else happens on this side. Snapshot. Sure. Snapshot push report. Cool. Oh, come on over here, Google. Come on. It's got to make the long trek across all of the screens. So uh, what you do is you get it's like it'll say, hey, here's the push operation. It'll tell you if it was complete, how many locations, if there's any failed, and now you can directly go to it. And this is awesome if you have a team because, like who's pushing snapshots out? One of the banes of my existence on one team I was with was somebody would go in and update a snapshot real quick and not tell anyone and wouldn't document it. And so I'm like, I'll find out like a month later when I'm looking at something and go, why was this changed? Or I'll see that the time of when I made the last push in my documentation doesn't line up um, when the last push or update in the snapshot doesn't line up. It means somebody went in and pushed it without telling me. It's like now you can get that. Now you can get that feedback. So this one is huge for people who are solo people. Obviously, the failed one is kind of nice, but if you have a team, this is even cooler. Uh, anyone? And then we also have there's also coupon triggers now in workflows. It's kind of neat. Gives a couple more options. I wouldn't say there's anything too interesting to talk about there, but also the action sidebar is faster. Does any show of hands, either video or put a one in the chat? Has anybody noticed that at all? Yeah, Mario, you've noticed the speed? It's gone fast. It feels
Yeah,
faster.
it's significantly faster. Like when you click on filters and on like you add actions or add triggers, there's no more like 5 second delay while it loads the like variables and frame info. So it's definitely faster.
Yeah. Oh, and one thing also, guys, I forgot to talk about this at the top of the call. This is about you guys. I like to talk a bit to just get, wake us all up on Thursday morning. But if you guys want to talk about a project you're doing, if you have questions, you want to talk through it, if you want to share what you're doing, get some feedback. We have some of the smartest friggin' people on this call, and from all kinds of different aspects. So, this is your chance to get some free coach one-on-one coach in there. But yeah, so anyway, the workflow action, like this was a big thing because it also what I've also found too is like as I want to know if that also impacts the speed of when you start getting lots of if conditions because I like lots of if conditions and I do some crazy stuff, but then there's a certain point where the whole workflow starts to slow down and yeah, so hopefully that will address some of that. But yeah, those are some of the updates that I've been seeing. But yeah, let's say hi to a person or two. Hey, Joe, I think I saw you on one of our previous calls there. How are you doing there today, Joe? You happen to be on, Mike? Feel free. I did. I did. I usually have a 5 second memory. It's an etch a sketch. It's amazing that I remember me and even my wife too sometimes, Now I'm like, it's all good, man. But yeah, so with snapshots, one thing we could talk about if no one's got any questions off on the top. Oh, you love the time? I appreciate that, Joe. One of the things that we could talk about is one of my favorite things, which is test cases. I did a video recently about it, and it's been a big on my mind. Uh, and test cases really, it's a fancy developer term. Really, what it is about having a set of tests that are written down to know that what you built or what you either for a client account or your snapshot actually works. And how do you, but more importantly, and because when I say test case, it sounds like we all can nod our heads and say, yes, it's important to do. But I don't think a lot of people really fully get the value of how much further you can go with getting value out of test cases. Because it's not just about testing whether things work. A lot of times when you're delivering a project to a client, it's giving them the confidence that it works. Because oftentimes people might hire us, they saying, hey, can you build me some automations in my account? Or maybe if you're a freelancer, you're getting called into, maybe you're going to build a snapshot for someone else. Uh, a lot of times people trust the expert and they don't know what the whole process looks like. So they're kind of relying on you and hoping that, when you say, yeah, this is good, it is good. But no matter how much they trust you, there's always going to be that thing in the back of their mind saying, yeah, but does it work? Like how far, because when it's in the initial stages of a project, it's all cool. When it comes to them actually taking money from customers and then having to rely on that, that's usually where a lot of frictions, that's why a lot of problems come up at the end of projects. Well, why are they all of a sudden bringing up all why are they putting up walls and defenses? Why are they all of a sudden getting cold feet on things? Is because oftentimes their confidence doesn't match um, their confidence in the product doesn't match the excitement that they had at the beginning. And so having a series of test cases isn't just good for for yourself to make sure that what you built actually works. It's awesome to be able to give to a client or give to an end user or a process to go through so that they see that it works and they know that, and then they can put a lot more confidence in that. So, uh, an example that I've seen too, or that often happens is like you can even give it to the end user client, right? It's you can have a snapshot. You want to be able to test that snapshot as you build it once it's gone. And then when the client kind of finally comes on board, the end user, some of those tests can be repurposed for an account manager saying, hey, on our introductory call, hey, we got your account set up, you know, let's go through and do one or two things. Hey, let's go try out your newsletter. Let's go through the process. So having those test cases written on how to use your snapshot, the value kind of keeps going down the line there. Now, Lenny, you're all aboard the test case bandwagon, right? Have you started, right? Because you've just recently done some of the training. Have you had a
Yeah.
chance to try any test cases yet, or
That's
do
what
you
I'm
have a,
doing right now while you're talking.
oh yeah, we got inspired. Hey, no time like the present, right? What are you
Yeah,
doing some test
I
cases
was
on?
waiting. I was waiting actually for that call. So actually have someone keep me company and do this.
That's it. That's it. What are you doing test cases on right now? Like what kind of, if
Um,
you don't mind me sharing?
yeah, so we're just creating some revamping, some snapshots. So I just cleared all the custom values and everything that we don't need. And now I need to go back and check that everything is working and I haven't forgotten anything. So yeah, it's open in in my private browser. And that's how I do
Gotcha.
everything. Yeah.
Yeah. And is that the sort of thing is like, do you kind of see how are you going to be rolling those out? Is it kind of like that? Are you going to be doing anything with the client or giving them like, hey, here's the snapshot and here's some things you can run through, or how are you going to be delivering those?
No, basically we will just upload the snapshot to his sub account inside his agency. So we need to see that everything first is working before changing anything. And I haven't finished the documentation, so I need to be very careful on what it can be updatable and what not.
That's huge, dude. Like I always say, I'm a broken record, but that one check mark that will save you hundreds of hours is is this workflow tag, is this custom field?
Yeah,
Am I able to overwrite it? If you
it
just
takes
document just that,
ages. Yeah, but the
yeah,
documentation, like, okay, I'm a noob on documenting, so it takes ages.
yeah. But
Now I
it
have the
say,
AirTag though.
yeah, it takes ages up front, but you know what also
Yeah,
takes ages? Having to start a project over because you can no longer fix it or work on it, right?
yeah.
That's
And
it.
that's exactly what it is, especially with the custom values. There are tons of them because they had imported before me starting working with them. They had imported snapshots and everything is a mess in there.
Yeah. That's so often. And that's really what, see, a lot of times like people go with the big pushback to any kind of documenting, whether it's a test case or assets, it's always that time, right? There's always that question of, am I getting like, am I getting a dollar and 1 cent for this dollar that I'm investing, right, in time? And I think the problem is that where documentation, um, the payoff is it's a long-term investment, and but it's one that has like a massive, interest payments, right? Uh, but that's where the planning side, I think, having a good planning, you're able to bring the customer to the end goal, right? Because when I'm trying to sell, for those that are freelancers here, when I'm talking to an agency, most of what I'm talking about, they're not going to see the value. They kind of want something to sell right now. But then you have to, if you ask questions like, okay, once we have the snapshot, are you going to want to improve it after? And they're like, oh yeah, of course. Yeah, I want to add like new features come in. It's like, oh, cool. Well, like, do your clients even need those new features? It's like, oh yeah, like, it's like we're kind of like pride of being the cutting edge. We're a more higher ticket thing. That's where we get a lot of our upsells. Like, okay, so there's a lot of money to be gained. It's like, oh, well, now it's like, if you can now make the case for them that, well, if they can't update things because there's no documentation, because there's no processes in place, well, now you've just identified money. That's something that a lot of business owners understand. What they don't understand is a big document with a bunch of text on it and why that's valuable. What they understand is being able to save time, not have to spend 100 hours rebuilding every time they want to make a change.
Yeah, and with the testing, this has nothing to do with the documentation. It's basically you have the confidence once if the client comes back and say that this is not working, it's broken, you can actually say, no, it works, or it doesn't, or you know exactly where to go and check where's the problem.
Yeah. I'm going to just do a quick little visual for people. And because I think there's something that just came to mind too, is that test cases. I've talked a lot about, hey, building a test case helps you test your snapshot. It also helps give confidence to a client. But there's another area that we haven't talked about, the test cases for your snapshots or builds really helps. And it's actually even before the build starts. Now, this isn't something you need to do every single time, but I just want you to kind of think about this for a bit. So let's say you're in a planning stage and we're just going to make up something here. So it's like, let's say you're mapping some stuff out and we're saying like, hey, we have a lead. We're going to have like a lead magnet happening. We're going to have a calendar sales booking system of some sort. Maybe we're going to have an onboarding process. And I know how to spell. Cool. So even when you're in a planning stage, there's some interesting things that can happen, right? So so we have 3 different modules here, or 3 different types of processes in our snapshot. When it comes to scoping a project, right? One of the things that makes or breaks a lot of projects is scope, right? Scope creep. And also knowing when a project is done. Because if you don't have a defined way of knowing when a project is done, it's real easy to get carried away when you're in the middle of workflows or trying to like over deliver, right? And try and like really kind of give a lot of value in. And because that's what happens to me is I always want to solve the whole company's problem. I want to solve everything, right? So I need some way of objectively saying I am done. But how would you do that in a snapshot, right? Like, how do you know our booking process is done? Is it 3 messages? Is it 5 messages? Do we have to notify people? How complicated of systems do we need? And one of those ways is test cases are a good way to give you a very clear understanding of what done looks like. And let me give you an example. So if we had a lead magnet, right? And let's say, guys, get ready on your keyboards there, or if you just want to shout it out. We have a small group. You guys could just shout it out on mic if you want. What would be something you could test to know if a lead magnet opt-in, or if you're delivering like put your email, get a digital download type of thing? What's a test that we might do to know that works?
Trigger links.
Trigger link. Thank you. I was about to go with the old Bueller link. Bueller, trigger links. And what about trigger links? What are you testing?
But you're testing when they get download.
Sorry, say that again. We had a little crosstalk there.
Go ahead,
Warren,
Mario.
keep going.
I was going to say Mario jumped in. I was going to let him finish. The way that we use them, we embed the trigger links in the email, and then we tie it to an opportunity pipeline, and therefore we can verify whether they click the link or not.
So how do you test the trigger link? Like, what's the process for
So
testing?
our process is we have a bunch of team members, and we all embed. We plug them in as contacts, and then we do our first round of testing by emailing, our first round of people a sample of what the initial campaign is. They click the trigger links. We make sure that they get added to the opportunity pipeline, and then
Cool.
we're able to move through.
So the process is they're going to have to open the email.
Yes.
You're going to click on the trigger link. Click on the trigger link. And then you said also, let me just make this a bit smaller so I can get a little bit more in here. They're going to click on the trigger link, and then what has to, when the trigger link, what has to happen when that trigger link goes?
We tie it into the opportunity pipeline. So once they click it, they get added as an opportunity, or they move through the opportunity. We start with an email sent, right, to make sure that everybody gets added into the initial opportunity pipeline. But then they click the trigger link and they move to the second stage, which is click trigger link.
So there we go. Cool. So what this is like what we've actually just done is think about what we just went through, right? We had to think about, well, what, it's like, hey, we have this trigger link. Well, what are all the things that trigger link touches, right? We talked, there's an email, there's the trigger links, there's pipeline stages. We also had to think about, to write this, we have to ask, well, what is the user experiencing in this, right? So we have to have an understanding like, hey, the email is sent, because it's one thing to know the trigger link happened, but did the email that when you click on that trigger link, did that email actually get sent or not? And it starts to really impact a lot of other areas of your build, right? Because now you're not just testing the trigger link works. Click on trigger link, activate. Cool, right? No. Well, we're now actually, what the test case is doing, it's making us think through what the users, like your team, the agency team, or the contacts that are experiencing it, what are they actually going through? And how do you know it's happening? And by creating these test cases, it's not just, again, making sure that basic things work. It's now, even in the planning stage, we're thinking through the users, and this allows us to have more scope of when we know this lead magnet is done, right? Because what often happens when you're building, and I've seen this happen so often, where you ask somebody to build something for you, and they build exactly what you asked them to. They go and they put a trigger link in, but it's like, but what else? Why was that trigger link supposed to be there? So the act of having to write a proper test case, and we're going to quickly go through what how a proper format, because this is just rough notes for the example. By actually having to plan what types of tests, even if it's not perfect, it's just rough at this point, it's going to help you and your team make sure that you've actually fully got coverage of things. And it also gives you the confidence that, hey, like everything's done. Like everything that we need to test for from the user side is done. Like this thing is doing what a lead magnet needs to do. So, so hopefully you guys are getting a sense of that, right? Is like that test cases, and this test case then is going to be used at the end of the process. Okay, now you can hand it off to your QA team saying, hey guys, this is what we set out to do. Make sure that the build, when it actually gets delivered, does that. And then it gets third. And then finally, you can then hand it to an account manager as like something for them to walk the client through one or two, or, a select group. It's like, hey guys, yay, we just installed this lead magnet system in your program. It's really freaking cool. And hey, I want to get you there. I'm going to send you, go in, fill out that form, get the trigger link. Now go and take a look at the pipeline. See that? They're like, oh man, that's all automated. That's super cool, right? Like it gives you tools to be able to really deliver an amazing customer experience. So, test cases. If you asked me even 5 years ago if I'd be getting excited about talking about test cases and documentation, I would have called you crazy. Cool. So let's talk about, anyone getting stuff out of this, by the way? If you just throw it in the chat if this is like that, and again, if you have more questions on this, please feel free to interrupt or just throw it in there. Always happy to go in deeper. But let's go in and actually say what a test case is. And maybe I should use a doc instead. Cool. So we're just going to write this in. I could just go to the course that I have on it, but I think it's cooler to do it live. Cool. So what is a test case? Let's say, what do we need, and what is the minimum amount of writing that we need to get a test case fully? Well, first, name of the test. So let's take our lead magnet thing. We're going to say, lead magnet trigger link. Lead link, link updates pipeline. So we're getting the name of our test. It's a very functional one, right? We want to know what is this, why, what are we doing with this test, right? What's the kind of general thing? What we want to have is a very short description of the test, which is, or the why of it, which is, why we test, what is explaining what's happening. It's like a trigger link is sent in after a lead form submission. And we need to verify that the pipeline updates and notifications are sent to sales. Nothing fancy, right? Because you got to remember, an effective test case, you might know what the test is. You might know all the context surrounding it, but when you're handing something off to another team member, a client, account manager down the road, adding a little bit of context. So what we might always call the description and context. Context. You have to remember that if you don't write this context down, you're assuming that the person's just got to know the whole snapshot and why this is important. And so having just even little bits of that context on where it is useful. So when we say pipeline updates, we could say, verify that the pipeline updates to opt-in stage. I'm not going to get super detailed, but you see, it's important to be specific, as specific as possible when you're writing these things, to the assigned salesperson. Cool. There we go. Loving it. Hey, one person loves it. We'll keep on going. Wonderful. Cool. What else do we need? We need to have the exact steps. Am I sharing my screen, by the way, guys? Okay, I am. Okay, I didn't see the green bar around it. Okay, that was like, like it sometimes puts that green bar. Every sentence is a little there. The exact steps to test. So it might be really obvious how to test a trigger link, but as we just discovered in, when we're going through here, right? Like, not everyone's going to know to test the, there's some things that it might sound really obvious, but to make this test fully important or fully valuable, it's good to have some of the, like, those exact steps so it's not missed. Because you think about it, right? You hand it off to someone, they might not care about the snapshot as much as you. Maybe it's a junior team member or the client. Clients sometimes don't care about that stuff, or they just don't know, right? So if you can spoon feed them, that's more important there. So what we're going to say, it says we want to fill out the lead opt-in form. Oop, that bolded. And whatever the name is, put in the exact name of it. Open the email and click on the trigger link within. Trigger link within. Then what do we have to say? We said verify that the assigned user received a notification in the pipeline, and then name of the pipeline. Contact moved to stage. Any other flair there, Warren? Any other little nuances you think that might be important to test? Or in the steps to test?
Yeah, be honest, I'm actually in workflow AI, and I have a comprehensive workflow that we built for a client, and I'm asking AI to analyze the workflow and then document it for me. I've tried to do that while I'm listening to you. Sorry.
That's all right. I have some thoughts on that, but I'm not going to get distracted. I won't pull my soapbox out just yet.
Okay.
But yeah, we'll stick it to here. exact steps to test. And all right, so you get the picture. Now, obviously, again, we're going very short, but it's really easy to miss some of those smaller things, right? Like verifying like the user received a notification email. What we mean is another thing that we can do in detail is not just verify that we need to be more specific than that. Is as open the inbox of the contact of the user, of the assigned user, that the email was delivered. Because when we say we sent a notification, we don't want to know that the workflow said that that email action was sent, because that's not useful. All that's really useful is that a notification email hit an inbox. Because if it didn't hit the inbox, that might tell us that there's maybe another problem in the system, right? Because like you can tell the client, like it's like with email deliverability. The client says, none of my emails are sending. And if you tell them like, oh, 100% of your emails were delivered, are they going to be happy with that answer? Nah, right? Not at all, right? So it might sound really, really kind of nitpicky, but the difference between verify the email was sent versus open the inbox of the assigned user and check that the email was delivered, that's that level of specificity that takes out people assuming things. Because if you leave room for people to assume, yeah, it was sent, more or less, it'll get there. Cool. Outcome, expected outcome. So guys following it at home, the expected outcome is when we do this test, what are we expecting to happen? You know, so they might sound very similar, but you'll see the differences in here, right? So the expected outcome is, bold again, is that pipeline opportunity was created in pipeline and stage notification sent to salesperson. Maybe they were tagged, or well, maybe the tag, we would have put that in the test there. Expected thing. So with this example, I'm actually thinking about it, that this example might not have been the best because the expected outcome is very similar to the test. But really what we're trying to do with the expected outcome is we're trying to saying is like, what should have happened when you do this? And I've added in the verification sides, but that's really what we're trying to do, is trying to saying is like, what did we expect to happen? And if this happened, this is how we can tell that this steps were done. So that's actually the difference between the two. The exact steps to test, this is the check that it was done. Like this is what you have to do. The expected outcome is, how do we know that this test was successful? Well, if the opportunity, like this is the yes or no, did it pass or did it fail the test? Was an opportunity created in the pipeline and stayed blah, blah, blah? Yes. If yes, it passes. Was a notification sent to the notification was delivered to the assigned salesperson? If yes, it passes. So the exact steps is, how do we do the test? And the expected outcome is the criteria for if the test passed or failed. Anyone got any questions on that one? Is anyone confused about any part of that? Or
I don't think I've ever thought about doing test cases for snapshots. I think that's genius.
oh, well, thank you. Yeah, as I said, it's one of those things, because it's another one of those things of like, this takes time, guys. Like, you got to first learn how to do this. But one thing I've noticed is that the snapshot, marketing world is full of marketers who are creatives, right? Like oftentimes we're like, nobody talks about this stuff. And why does nobody talk about it? Because it's not important? No, nobody talks about it because we kind of have a blind leading the blind there. Because if you talk to any developer, you talk to any programmer or someone who's been in IT or maybe even the corporate world, like the idea of a test case, like this is kind of like 101 stuff, right? But not many people in the marketing world think about this because we're more creatives, right? Like we're more people. We're either some people are more people person, they're more creatives, idea and brand or designers. So a lot of these kind of basics and snapshots, nobody wrote the book on this except one crazy dude I know. Uh, like there's not many people who are writing, all this stuff and sharing this, right? Because it's way more fun to sell like the sales side of stuff. So cool. So, but think about this. We've invested time in all this, and now I want you guys to think about those 3 value slots, right? So it's like if you write in your planning stage, you can write this kind of thing of like, hey, the testing process makes you think through the user journey. It gives you the ability now to hand this off. Because like if you hand off a snapshot saying, hey, can you check that this snapshot works? First, they have to learn the whole snapshot. Because how do you know what to test, right? How do you know what to look at? I guess you could give them a bit of direction, but now they kind of have to feel their way out and find some of these little details, like the step of open the inbox of the assigned user, make sure that was delivered. Like this is a way for you to make sure that you don't have to explain everything to everyone and look over their shoulder as much. It gives you a black and white way to just hand it off. They say it was done. You can now trust it was done, maybe spot check a couple things and move on, right? And then finally, when you give this, when it comes to creating an onboarding process, like imagine going an onboarding process. Okay, I just built this giant monstrosity of a snapshot. What do I do now? How do I build an onboarding process? Okay, you start working through. Well, why don't you start with the tests? You go, if you have like 2 or 3 tests for every one of your modules or your major features of your snapshot, go through your tests and go, well, hey, what's that 80-20? What's the Pareto principle? What's the 80-20 version of what we need to do to trust that this snapshot works? We don't need to test everything. We don't need to test that absolutely every single tag and every single trigger link works. What we need to know is of these, if our snapshot has 3 major pieces of value, it opts people in, it books them in, and it onboards them to the product that they bought. What we need to know is like, what is the core things that we can test to feel confident with like 80-90% accuracy that these work? Because if your snapshot opts people in, notifies the team, books those contacts, gets them to book into sales, and it sends them the onboarding emails and checks if they're done. If it does that, who cares if every single tag doesn't work or not? The value of your snapshot is delivering. It's not just proven, but now the clients also know that the snapshot delivers. So you don't get one of those like 60, 90 days later, the client going, none of this worked. It's like, well, didn't you use it? Didn't you like, or it's like, oh, this thing doesn't work. It's like, but they know now, right? And you know that they know. So the chances of like customers coming back to you months later or weeks later with problems after delivery goes way down, and allows you to move on quicker. Testing drives sales teams crazy. Why is that, Warren? Let's talk about that.
So our process is very similar to this. We work with a client that does a lot of outreach, and they want to do campaigns on almost like a weekly basis in some cases. And it all starts with us building a process map of what they want to accomplish with that outreach campaign. So we do the same. We do this exact scenario, right? We build what that campaign looks like for an outreach, like an email, trigger link, blah, 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 driving back to a sales page. And then when they say, oh, we want this out by Monday, we're like, well, we have to test this entire campaign to make sure, right? Because we have like, if it's a COO, they go down this path. If, so we have a lot of if else branches based that's filtering out different, CEOs, COOs, stuff like that. And all that needs to be tested to make sure that, the trigger links work, that they go down the right flow, everything's filtered properly, and blah, blah, blah. And the sales team is like, they have a mentality like, oh, you can just build it in 10 minutes and we can have it by the end of the day, right? And I'm like, no, all right. So when we say that we
Well,
have to do all this proper testing, then they're like, oh, well, we said that this would be out today. And so it creates a lot of, friction. And then
100%. If you
and
don't mind
then
me,
when
if you don't
we
mind me, if I want to just stop in there because there's
sure.
something really important. So, the sales team, this is a common, like we have to really know the opposition to this, right? Because at some point someone's going to say this is stupid, right? So thank you, Warren, for bringing that up, right? But one thing he said is like the sales team says you could just build this in 10 minutes, right? Have it in a day. It's the answer actually isn't no. The answer is yes, you could build it and deliver it by the end of the day. But what are we doing here? I think it's important sometimes to acknowledge that and diffuse, right? Because if you just say, well, no, it takes it takes 5 times as long. It's like now it's kind of like you're butting heads with people. Whereas one tactic that works is to agree, yeah, building things is super easy, but are we trying to deliver projects or are we trying to deliver outcomes, successful outcomes, right? And it's like, and if we deliver it and the client asks for a refund 3 weeks later, did we actually deliver it by the end of the day? No, we didn't deliver the outcome by the end of the day because the actual outcome is we want to have happy clients that are making money, right? So it was a small thing, and maybe I'm nitpicking, but I think it's a really good example is like that, yes, building things is fast. Let's take that out of the discussion and focus again and refocus it on the outcomes that we're looking for. Because, and here's the other reason, because there is a time when writing test cases is too much. There is a point where you've written, like, as there's this idea in development called test driven design or something like that. And essentially what it says is you literally have to test everything. You test and like you build tests, you go and build the product, and then you do the test in. But the problem with that is that some tests don't produce valuable outcomes. Testing whether the tag booked was added or not, if that tag isn't really part of triggering workflows, it's more of just like a flavor or like, so people can know who was booked or not. Like there's a point where those tests do become too much. So I just wanted to be able to take this step back and say sometimes those tests are bad. And having that conversation from that point saying, hey guys, some of these tests suck, but let's make sure there's an objective that we're trying to do that gets the sales team buy-in. Because if you can get them, I think that could also change things up and make them part of the, like, hey, what do you want? Because if there's not a problem to solve, yeah, people drop.
Well, that's the trailing end of that is no, if you want to accomplish these objectives, right? We can't build it in 10 minutes if you want to accomplish it because there is a round of testing, right? And to that, the one time that they said, well, let's just skip the testing, and we skipped it, and something very simple was overlooked, and the whole thing failed, right? And they owned it, right? They said, you know what? Now we're going to just do it your way, right? So it was a valuable lesson on both sides, right? And it really bonded that relationship, and that now there's a trust factor. Like, hey, if you say we need to test it and it's not ready until it's tested, then then they agree to that. So it really worked out in the end. But yeah, so.
Yeah. Yeah. And as I said, with all these things, Warren, you know me, I like to use as an example, not your specific situation. I know how you go, but because a lot of people deal with this. And I remember for me, there's all these times where it's like, I know I need to do this. And I'm going in fighting with everyone. And it's like, no, we have to do this. But it's like, no. Make sure we acknowledge like they're right from a certain point of view, right? So cool, guys. So I know you're all super excited about testing now, and I know you all are going to go. You're all going to come away from this meeting and you're going to go immediately go to your snapshot and you're like, let's go and write test cases, right? Right. But and for those people, because you're so excited, I have a special thing to share with you guys. And what it is I have a free training that, and you might be thinking too, like, okay, I want my team doing this, but I don't want to have to explain it to them. That's cool. Send them here. I have a free training I'm going to send you to. It's in a community I got. And in this course, for you, your team, whoever you want, you can send it to your family members as a birthday gift. It's that valuable. And what I go through is I go through the kind of 5 major skills that you need to have for the 4 major skills for being able to scale things. And one of those is prove it works, test cases. It's a whole section, and I got a nice little write-up for it. There's a little video training to go with it, and it all kind of works nicely as a little package. So if you're going away, it's like, yeah, cool, test cases, but I forget how to talk about it. It's all right here. So I'm going to go and just grab that link there for you. And most importantly, though, if you complete that course and you mark it all as complete and you do the quiz, you'll get a bronze certification badge. We have a fancy set of badges, and we have with us the very first silver certification person, Eleni, who has both gotten the bronze and the silver badges. She's the first one, world's first. And just in the chat there, guys, throwing down the training. I think we're almost up to about 150 people who have taken the course, and it's like just come out pretty much last week and a half ago. And we've gotten about 10 or 12 people who have officially finished it. People have finished it more or less, but then they just didn't mark as complete kind of stuff. But we actually had, so I'm really, really happy with that. Oh, Warren says, congrats, Eleni. Wonderful. Yeah, it is hard because guys, all this stuff, it's this knowledge stuff. Like you guys get all pumped in these calls, and it's one thing to get excited about learning about these things. It's another thing to actually invest that time into, and the discomfort of having to sit there and actually go through the motions, right? That's why test cases is why everyone skips it, because it's one thing to think they're valuable, but to make it part of your process and commit to adding that in and saying, no, guys, I know it might feel kind of bad, but we commit to doing it. It takes time to implement those things, to get buy-in. So yeah, even doing something as like a silly, it's not silly, but a simple little online quiz on that course material, it's a lot because most people don't do it. So yeah, super congrats, Eleni. So proud of you. The meeting is about, it's the Firefly. No, thanks, note taker Bev. We appreciate you. But cool, guys. Any other questions? Anyone want to have any other things off? That doesn't even have to be about test cases. Anyone have any other? Did I not share? Was I sharing again?
Yeah, you're sharing right now.
Okay, good. I keep forgetting. Zoom is so bad at hiding stuff. Oh, cool. But yeah, so I'll take it. I got a couple more minutes here if anyone has any other questions or comments. What do you guys? Was that Mario?
I said I think this was super helpful. Like it completely changed the way that I like, because I feel like so often like we willy-nilly produce something. And in software development, like there's test cases and everything like that, but you don't really consider that when you're building snapshots.
Yeah, man. So often it's because, yeah, you get used to doing it yourself, right? You know everything. The reason we're doing test case and everything that I talk when we're talking about snapshots, we're not talking about being that one-man army that does everything, that implements everything. We're talking about how do you bring other people along that journey with you? How do you open up in a way without making you just, because sometimes we hire team members and we don't get any more time because now every team member has to come to you anyway. It's just, you're still super busy, but now you're managing people busy instead of doing work busy, and you're not actually saving any time. So I think this is that way of starting to lay a foundation so that you can collaborate faster, so you can hand things off to people, because if they do it, you can just trust that they're following the process, and you don't have to just trust that they themselves are doing everything and managing things. Okay. Well, seeing no other questions, I think that'd be a good little spot to end there. But again,
I'd just
guys,
say that
yeah,
thanks
jump
for
in, Vit.
sharing, man. That's yeah, I like the detail of how you got it structured for testing. So definitely a few little updates that I need to do on my ClickUp templates for my VAs. Because we do fulfillment for an agency right now as a white level partner, and I'm trying to make it scalable. So I've got ClickUp task list template. There's about 60 actions that we need to complete per each account. And in each action, I went like SOP, boom, boom, boom. But I just, in the mornings, we have our meetings and I just go, hey, we're almost got it set up. I just need to go through all the funnels, test all the funnels that are working and check all the emails are working, right? And check all the links. So I just say it like that, but um, you've had it like really like detailed structured, the exact things that they need to test for. So it just makes me realize, okay, I need to just dial that in a little bit more. So it's even more obvious. It's almost like I think the rules of SOP is like you have to make them like for dummies, like for 4-year-olds. That way you cover all bases. Um, and much easier to then delegate, right?
100%,
Less
man.
less
Because
room for error as well.
yeah, cool, man. Yeah, because we don't you don't need to prove to yourself that you knew to do it. You have to be able to prove that other people could do it. Like that was why that free course came out. I actually was never going to put it out there, but I realized that not everybody is, you know, not everybody needs to know all of the theories and that. Some people just need the practicals. And I think test case is one of those very practical things that you don't need a lot of theory. Like we went into some of the theory here, but really at the end of the day, it's like here's the process, do it, and you get the value almost instantly. So cool, guys. Thank you again, Mario. Really appreciate the time and making this little event happen. And again, guys, get the free training. It's in the links somewhere. It'll be posted. And
Hey,
yeah.
one more thing. I've got the episode ready. It's not published yet, but it's ready and it's edited. That episode that me and you recorded.
Oh, wonderful.
Do you
Oh,
want
we
me to
had an
drop it
epic
in here?
podcast. Yeah, go
We to
for it,
drop it
man.
in here like you
Yeah,
guys get
dude.
like a super early bird on that one.
Oh,
Let me just
VIP guys.
yeah.
Never before everyone else. You can see the latest podcast. Yeah, Vit and I had a
So that's the only way you can listen to it right now. It's not published to any like Spotify and Apple Podcasts and all that. That'll happen next week. But if you hit that button, that's just like an online player, and you can listen to that interview that me and Michael did, and we talked about basically some of this stuff and some more.
Oh yeah, guys. So yeah, we stayed practical, but yeah, guys, definitely check that out because we went super deep. If you really want to go deeper, it was a ton of fun. We got some really good concepts. All right, I gotta bounce everyone. Toodaloo, and we'll see y'all next Thursday. Or happy testing.
Thank you guys so
Thank you,
much.
everybody.
Talk to you soon.